I've got nothing against Eminem. Got nothing against Eminem. Eminem can rap, but I care about us more. I don't want to go through. I don't want to talk about it no more. I don't want. For 22 years, every time I do an interview, they ask me about Eminem. The you want me to do?
Many people believe that Eminem was the one who destroyed Benzino's career, but if you dive into the history, you'll see it's way more complex than that. Sure, Eminem dropped some brutal diss tracks that tore Benzino apart, but ultimately, Benzino has only himself to blame for his downfall. Today, we're diving into how Eminem completely wrecked Benzino's reputation, and how it might have even damaged his relationship with his daughter, Coi Leray, in the process. Back in the 2000s, Benzino was just another rapper trying to break into the mainstream, but this Boston artist had a unique edge. He found the cheat code to success. Not only was he making music, but he also had a major influence in the industry as a co-owner of the Source magazine. Even though he didn't start the magazine from scratch, his relationship with Dave Mays, the Harvard grad who founded it, opened up huge opportunities for him to get involved. Now, while Benzino's exact role was never completely clear, Dave insists that this was done on purpose. Benzino definitely had a big hand in shaping the magazine's content, but things started to get shaky when Benzino and his crew, the almighty RSO, kept getting suspiciously positive reviews. For a lot of readers, this was the start of the magazine's downfall. He was relevant for a time as part owner of the magazine, but failed as a solo artist, as part of the almighty RSO and Made Men. He ruined the journalistic integrity of the magazine by having favorable reviews of his garbage expletive music inserted. Some people noticed the first big red flag when Benzino's group got a 5 mic rating, basically a perfect 5-star review for their new album. The catch? The magazine that gave the glowing review was owned by Benzino himself. Fans saw this as a serious conflict of interest, thinking it could really hurt the magazine's credibility. But just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for the magazine's staff, Benzino was about to take things to a whole new level. Back in 2002, Benzino started taking serious shots at Eminem. See, Benzino had a massive issue with how Eminem was skyrocketing in popularity at that time. Eminem's albums were selling like crazy, and he was everywhere, all over MTV and other music outlets, getting praised as hip-hop's top rapper. But to Benzino, Eminem was a symbol of everything wrong with mainstream rap, and he wasn't shy about using his platform to speak out against it, saying things like, "I had a problem with the machine, with the double standard in hip-hop. Certain media outlets take to him and look at him as the savior in hip-hop and the #1 in hip-hop, and do not recognize the guys out here that created hip-hop. Eminem is just the hood ornament for the machine. You think I could grab my crotch and put my expletive in people's faces the way he does? No way. But as long as the color of his skin and his eyes fits what America wants, it's all right." He went on to claim that Eminem's success and profits were largely due to his controversial lyrics about things like his mother, abusing his girlfriend, and use, and that he could get away with it just because he was white. Meanwhile, black rappers had to work much harder to entertain their audience and get radio play and recognition. To top it off, Benzino didn't just stop at making bold claims. He went after Eminem directly by dropping the track "Pull Your Skirt Up," where he labeled Shady as the Vanilla Ice of 2003. The 2003 Vanilla Ice, how you playin' it? If you ask me, you really ain't that nice, you overrated. He also mentioned that because the Source magazine gave Eminem a lot of early publicity, he feels like he was a key player in Eminem's journey to fame. "You was unsigned hype before you ever met Dre. I birthed your little career. Now you owe your life to Ray." So, we all know Eminem isn't the type to just sit back and take a diss from a lesser MC. After Benzino threw some shots his way, M fired back hard. He dropped some of his best diss tracks ever, like "Don't Wanna" and "Nail in the Coffin," which have become legendary. In those tracks, he really let Benzino have it, and they're considered some of his greatest responses ever.
"You sit behind a desk at the Source butt kissing and begging just for guest appearances, and you can't even get the clearances, cause real lyricists don't even respect you or take you serious. It's not that we don't like you, we hate you, period."
Ever since this track dropped, it's been a bit of a mixed bag for Benzino. On one hand, he got absolutely destroyed on it, but on the other, it boosted his visibility. If you've heard of Benzino, it's probably because of this rap, and if you haven't, well, it's definitely because of this rap too. Instead of taking the hit gracefully, as Eminem suggested in the song, Benzino decided to launch a full-blown war against Eminem, using his magazine, The Source, as his main weapon. To kick things off, he made sure Shady's The Eminem Show never scored a perfect 5 mic rating, even though it's considered a classic in hip-hop.
You're not gonna put nobody in your magazine 5 mics after this being disrespectful. You wouldn't do it, man. You wouldn't do it. Nobody would.
Back then, Benzino might have thought he had scored a big win, but what he didn't see coming was that this was the moment his beef with Eminem began to mess with his personal and professional life. Suddenly, he was damaging the one thing that actually mattered more to his fame than hip-hop ever did. Benzino clearly missed the memo on the art of war. He tried to use his magazine as a way to bash Eminem, but that was a pretty poor business decision, especially with Interscope, which is part of Universal, holding a big slice of the music industry pie. His emotions totally clouded his judgment. Benzino even admitted that he messed up the magazine's rep just because he felt so disrespected by Eminem. Eminem knew exactly what Benzino was doing wrong at the source, and he didn't hold back about it. In 2002, when he was on Angie Martinez's show, he laid everything out and called out the whole mess.
We all know what's going on at the source. Ray Benzino has Dave Mays shook. And you can't play two sides of the fence. You can't be a rapper. You can't be a rapper and own a magazine. Own half of a magazine. Because then what happens is you call rappers that you like. You call them and you want them to make a guest appearance on your album. And if they don't want to do it because you... then he's going to take you out that magazine. So you can't play both sides of the fence like that. You just can't do it.
Alright, so here's the scoop. After the ratings for the Eminem show came out, Benzino thought he had the perfect counterattack to M's latest burn. He was all set to make a big move in their ongoing feud. But true to form, his plan to get back at M was just another misstep that ended up backfiring spectacularly. When the whole feud between Benzino and Eminem kicked off, Benzino claimed it was because Eminem, being white in a black culture, was getting special treatment. But here's the thing. Anyone who knows anything about Eminem knows he's a true student of the game. Even XXL magazine stepped in to set the record straight and push back against Benzino's claims. Eminem brings together white and black people, and he does it while representing rap music in its truest form. The larger he gets, the larger hip-hop gets, no matter what anybody says. This dude lives, eats, and expletive hip-hop. Let's face it, we all have things in our past we'd rather keep hidden, and Eminem was no exception. It came out that when he was younger, he recorded a diss track aimed at a black ex-girlfriend, which included some pretty offensive comments about black women. Benzino saw this as a golden opportunity he just couldn't let slip by.
I was in Puerto Rico and I got the call from Dave. He was in the office saying that there was 3 white kids that came up there with the tapes. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, it was the Eminem's, like, they call it the racist rap hour tapes.
In these recordings, you can hear Eminem saying, "All the girls I like to bone have big..." No, they don't, because I don't like that N-word expletive. I'm just here to make a bigger hit. So, later in the freestyle, Eminem makes a controversial statement about not dating black women, saying they're just after your money. Benzino, on the other hand, argues that if he weren't in a feud with Eminem, a magazine like The Source would have still bought the tapes, but they probably wouldn't have held a press conference to reveal them, or at the very least, run a magazine cover with Benzino celebrating while holding Eminem's severed head. At the New York press conference, Benzino used the tape as evidence for claims he's been making for a year. He argued that Eminem is just playing the race card, and that his success comes from a media double standard. According to Benzino, if a black artist had the same lyrics, they'd be held accountable, but Eminem gets a free pass. So, with a claim like that, it's obvious Benzino wanted to make sure M stayed a public outcast forever. But, unfortunately for him, the world wasn't on his side. Since people had already shown they weren't too fond of Benzino, it was pretty easy for Eminem to turn things around. The tape they played today was something I made out of anger, stupidity, and frustration when I was a teenager. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend, who was African American, and I reacted like the angry kid I was. I hope people will take it for the foolishness that it was, not for what somebody is trying to make it into today. To the disappointment of the employees at The Source, the public took M's words seriously. This wasn't just bad news for Benzino's job, it was also starting to drag down the magazine he was tied to. Sales were dropping quickly. With everything going downhill fast, Dave Mays has had some heated debates about a few of these numbers. However, he admits that both he and Zeno really underestimated just how powerful Eminem truly was.
So a lot of people either didn't say nothing or took that side. But there's a lot of people that I believe respected, The Source's position on these things, but just were too scared to speak out and support us, and because it would have impacted their livelihood.
By 2005, Benzino and Dave Mays had both been kicked out of The Source. Mays might claim that his bet on the internet was the reason for their downfall, but Jeremy Miller's comments after they left seemed to point to a different story. Miller made it pretty obvious that what Benzino and Mays did to Eminem ended up costing the company big time. Not only did they lose out on The Source, but Benzino's rap career didn't exactly take off either. To this day, he's only got one major label album under his belt and just a single chart appearance with his track, Rock the Party, which only hit number 84. Even though his 2005 album, Look Into My Eyes, had skits making fun of Eminem's friend Proof, it didn't really turn things around for him. Miller was determined to have the magazine maintain a more neutral stance on things. Even with everything that went down, Benzino still believes there was a win to be had from the whole drama. He thinks that the Racist Rap Hour tape was actually the turning point that made him step back from rapping, especially after dropping his album Encore in 2004.
He takes like a 5-year break after that.
Yeah, he had to.
How did you feel about that? Did you feel kind of triumphant?
I felt like, yeah, of course.
Benzino's intense dislike for Eminem had really clouded his judgment. Instead of considering that Eminem might have had bigger issues that led him to step back, Proof's death and his problem, Benzino was stuck on trying to expose him. The crazy part is that this feud with Eminem is still what Benzino is most famous for, and it's basically the main reason people even want to talk to him. Even though Benzino says he's moved on, he keeps proving that he can't fully let go of what Eminem did to him in his music. This obsession has not only impacted his career, but also seriously strained his relationship with his daughter. After Benzino's rap career pretty much ran its course, he used his name recognition to land a spot on Love and Hip Hop. It looked like he was making an effort to start fresh. Around this time, he even tried to mend fences with Shady in interviews, showing he was open to moving on.
Sit down, have some lunch one time and just meet each other. You know, you never know. We just might like each other.
In the same interview, he mentioned that he never really considered it a feud. For a while, during his stint on Love and Hip Hop, it looked like Zeno had finally moved on from the past. But as reality TV shows like Love and Hip Hop, Marriage Boot Camp, and The Next 15 fizzled out in 2017, it wasn't long before he started taking shots at Shady again. This time, he aimed his criticism at the lackluster response to Eminem's album Revival and went after M's fan base. Can somebody tell these weirdo M fans that in this culture of hip-hop, they are the subculture, meaning nobody gives a flying expletive about anything they have to say when it comes to him right now? The album is trash, so take the L and move on. Thank you and good night. So, beyond the clear irony of Benzino telling anyone to move on, it seemed like he was just biding his time, waiting for any chance to take another shot at Eminem. At this point, it was pretty much the only thing keeping him in the headlines. Whenever M dropped something new, Benzino would pop up out of nowhere with a comment, often targeting Shady's fans. To all you expletive stans, we all know y'all are the most corniest non-violent coward fan base hip-hop has ever seen. So, even though those comments were quickly taken down after he got roasted by Shady fans, it just made his epic downfall even more obvious. Instead of going after Eminem directly, he ended up making things worse for himself because no matter what he said, he couldn't seem to get any traction. While Benzino was busy trying to grab the spotlight, another member of his family was starting to shine on her own. At first, Coi Leray was mostly known as Trippie Redd's girlfriend rather than as Benzino's daughter or an artist in her own right. But in 2020, after signing with Republic Records, Coi began to make some serious moves. Despite being relatively new to the game, her star power was undeniable. She really hit it big in 2021 when she scored a feature from Lil Durk on her track No More Parties. At first, Coi kept it a secret that Benzino was her dad, but eventually, everyone found out. Unfortunately, Zeno's actions have made things pretty tough for her. For one, people are always asking if she's involved in the drama with Eminem.
I know that anything that has to do with Eminem, I don't have nothing to do with those times, so don't involve me in them. I'm my own person, you feel me? Don't do that.
She says she's always ready to support her dad, no matter what.
Because I'm a ride for my father regardless, because he's my father. I don't know what anybody says.
Even though Coi keeps saying she'll always put him first, no matter what's going on between them, Zeno hasn't really done the same. There's been a lot of drama, with Benzino accusing her of lying about dealing and even poking fun at her debut album selling 11K. He's made comments like, if she had a track with Benzino, I would have listened. Benzino hasn't exactly been her biggest supporter through all this. Although things have been pretty rocky between them, Benzino did try, at least for a bit, to move on from his obsession with Eminem. He said that the tweets he posted in 2022 were directly replying to Coi, who told him that his ongoing feud with M was hurting her career and upsetting Eminem fans everywhere. He tweeted about it in March 2022. To all Eminem fans and stans all over the world, the beef is officially over. I'm letting y'all know I have no hate towards any of his fans and recognize his contributions to hip-hop. He is truly a part of the culture and one of the best to rock the mic regardless of his color. Shortly after that, he went on DJ Vlad's show to talk about how he wanted to put an end to his 20-year feud with Eminem. He mentioned that the beef was impacting Coi Leray, and he felt it was time to move on.
The motivation was definitely Coi, because the album was dropping. After I did put that out there, she was like, Dad, it's hard for me to have you around me because, these same white people are coming to my shows and they support me.
For Zeno, it felt like a huge leap forward for the whole culture. But to most fans, it came off like he was just flogging a dead horse, trying to reach out to someone who had already moved on. If Benzino had just made peace with the whole Eminem situation, it could have been a huge step toward mending his rocky relationship with his daughter. But just 2 months later, his obsession with Eminem took a turn for the worse when he criticized Eminem's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, erasing any progress he'd made. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is just like the Grammys. They have no respect for our culture, black or hip-hop, and if you don't agree, you're racist. Period, point blank. So to do some damage control, Coi quickly tweeted on the same day to make it clear that this time, she really wasn't backing her father. I'm about love, equality, respect, and forgiveness. I have nothing against Eminem. 25 years of my life, all I know is he is a very talented artist and actor. 8 Mile was great. Let's build bridges and get over them before you burn the bridge and burn with it. Since then, the drama between Coi and Benzino has only gotten worse. Benzino even broke down in tears talking about it and mentioned back in November that things might be beyond repair. Meanwhile, Coi has promised never to mention Benzino's name in an interview again, as she doesn't want to be caught up in his drama. They could have turned things around if he had decided to move on for her sake. Instead, Benzino just couldn't let go of the feud that's been a huge part of his life for years. It seemed like he was ready to fade into the background, but then something unexpected happened. Eminem just sparked up the rivalry again on Doomsday Part 2 from the Lyrical Lemonade album. He threw a little jab at his old adversary, poking fun at his infamous lack of a neck. He also touched on some rumors about him being involved in questionable activities and being buried in debt. But it doesn't stop there. Eminem's obsession with this feud has even caught up with those around him, as Coi also got called out in the track. Guess that Coi Leray feats in the toilet, eh? After years of ignoring Benzino while he kept taking shots, M finally decided he'd had enough. But now, Benzino has another chance to go after Shady with his response track. In Vulturious, Benzino revisits his usual complaints, accusing Eminem of cultural appropriation and throwing insults when he gets called out. This time, though, he also drags Coi into the drama, suggesting that it's the mainstream rap scene, not his own actions, that's responsible for the issues between them. But I provide it. Food, clothes, and gifts kept you excited. Now you let the industry Willie Lynch keep us divided. The most shocking part, he even brought up Eminem's late best friend and former D12 member, Proof. Square ain't even go circle the block for Proof. Once again, Benzino was relentless, like a dog with a bone. Before M could even respond, Benzino dropped another diss track, Rap Elvis. This time, he took a jab at M's A&R skills. Out of nowhere, Benzino finally came up with something worth dissing Eminem for. The problem? The lyrics were so impressive that people instantly thought he didn't write them himself. Even though Cassidy has denied any involvement, Benzino squandered this rare chance to earn some respect in hip-hop by pretty much blowing it when he admitted the track was ghostwritten.
I don't go in the studio by myself, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've done that. But for this, you know what I'm saying, I gotta bring my with me and motivation and bounce off of each other, and why not?
Benzino still blames Eminem and his fan base for ruining his career. But the real issue was his feud with Eminem, which ultimately took down his magazine and dashed his chances for success. Despite his beliefs, the facts are clear. He's seen as a joke, and even those who've had their own issues with Eminem prefer to team up with him rather than Benzino. 20 years later, when people think of Benzino, Eminem is still the first thing that comes to mind. Benzino's obsession with Eminem and his perceived unfair treatment has largely been his own doing. So, if he wants to understand his career troubles, he should start by looking in the mirror. share your thoughts on Benzino's downfall in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and stay tuned for our next one.